Welcome to Speaking Cinema, Serious Movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you live from our little Roman apartment in Hollywood, California. Don't mind the sleeping royalty on the couch.
They're sleeping. Just
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Speaking Cinema. Listen to us Jibber Jabber every single Monday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. I am your host, that suave newspaperman himself, Mr. Jibber Jabber. With me today, as always, bedazzled in his jewels and in a pretty dress, Kev.
only the best for me.
The royalty of this podcast, let's be honest.
I mean, we're just dressed to the nines.
That was definitely one of those sentences that I started and I didn't know how to finish, and I had to really
kind of loop it back around.
I'm not saying I'm great at talking, because I think this podcast is a testament to how good and bad I could be at it.
You're a 7 out of 10.
But I'm just saying, if we measured all the sentences I started versus me knowing what I was going to say at the end of the sentence,
You're not quite Donnie Trump, but you might get Sean Spicer.
how dare you? I'm doing great for that. How dare you? We're midway through our Grab by the Girly season. Here's hoping it's going to get you in touch with that feminine side. Kev, how's it treating you?
Doing good, you know.
My favorite part about it is, because these are not our picks, there's no way to know how we're going to feel about it. Now,
Sure.
I've seen some of the movies here.
I owned Virgin Suicide long before we did this.
Sure. And, so there's a little bit of but because we didn't pick it, you just never know, right? 'Cause I read that book, but maybe the movie sucks. You know, it turned out I had never even seen Clueless, and I thought I had. You know what I mean? So I'm liking that element of it, if nothing else. It's just that, who knows what we're going to think about these fucking things.
For sure.
Speaking of these fucking things, this week on the Jibber Jabber, an immortal comedy romance, 1953's Roman Holiday. What a terrible tagline that was.
It was, there was also another one. It was like the vibrant Audrey Hepburn in her screen debut of a comedy romance. It was not good.
Speaking of Audrey Hepburn, this movie stars Gregory Peck and is the debut of Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, this is her first movie, which I didn't realize when I was researching this.
Yes. I think with a lot of these people, especially the more classic people, it's like they don't have a first movie. They've always been there.
Yeah,
and then they went away at some point.
Yep.
But they didn't have a last movie, but everyone has a first movie and a last movie. It's the circle of life. Directed by William Wyler, written by John Dighton and Dalton Trumbo.
Yes.
Wink, wink, wink. Produced and distributed by Paramount Pictures. If you're not familiar, a repressed princess decides to sneak out of her room while visiting Rome, seeking adventure, and runs into an American journalist looking for a big story.
What a fun premise.
We'll get to it. I agree. William Wyler chose to film the movie completely on location in Rome and in
Cinecittà
studios, as opposed to Hollywood. I assume that's a Roman studio.
Yes, it's a very large studio in Rome. Lots of films have been made there. Gangs New York was filmed there. Fellini made a lot of his movies there. It's a very famous historic studio in Rome.
Why do this? Hollywood at the time embroiled in anti-communism witch hunting, the blacklisting of suspected communists. See history if you want more on this. And also the great movie Trumbo, which was, by my double use of the word, great.
See, I never saw it. I need to check it out.
It's really good. It's definitely one of those movies that, and Kevin, we were talking about that. We, a little behind the scenes here. We went to a opening day screening of John Wick last night.
Yes, John Wick 2, Chapter 2.
Fantastic,
Wonderful film.
And before the movie, we're chatting as we tend to do.
As we do.
And there's a lot of movies that I've seen that I was like, hey, fascism is bad. That's not a message in a movie. Everyone knows that. And in light of recent political goings-on, it's like these movies take on a new life for me. I recently rewatched Sound of Music, and I was like, oh, now I get it.
Yep.
Every
country, this might be a controversial stance, but I think every country needs that terrible leader so that we hold up a big mirror to ourselves and remember what we stand for.
I agree with you, but living through it, man, it's not
not
great.
Easy, but growing ain't easy.
Every morning I wake up and it's just like,
yeah, what happened today?
What happened today? I'm gonna go ahead and say it's 2017. We're as of this recording, we are a month and a half into 2017, if that, barely.
Yep.
This is the longest year I've ever had in my life. It is just one long day after another.
Mm-hmm.
Screenwriter Dalton Trumbo was on the blacklist, wrote this screenplay in secret, did not receive credit for it upon its initial release. His credit was restored by the 2003 DVD re-release.
Yeah, it was actually, it was awarded the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, but to the ghostwriter, and it wasn't actually, like, given to him until 93 or something like that. And it was given to his widow. So, yeah, interesting little bit of revisionist history there for Hollywood. So,
Indeed.
I think people that actually lived through that really realize how terrible a time that was.
I mean, listen, I will be the first to tell you that it's not a great time now, but it's definitely, I'm not someone who's so hysterical to say it's never been worse, because the 50s and 60s, especially the 60s.
Oh, sick, dark. Just a dark time.
And I think everyone feels that way for different reasons. Like, I think some people are like, that's when society that's when we stop valuing what we really value.
Yeah.
I would argue that's when people ask for things that they deserve the whole time.
Yep.
And were forcefully denied them and had to fight for their rights.
Yes.
Also, the government was sending people... Kev, this is like unfathomable you couldn't do this in the era of Twitter. But
No.
to fight an unprovoked war and force people into military service, that's... I couldn't imagine that. Every old person I talk to, I always ask them, like, dude, you lived through Vietnam. Like, what the fuck was that like? You know what I mean? Like, how could you, in your mind, think, like... Because, if there was a draft, say, for a World War II, right? If there was a draft then, it's like...
There was.
Yeah, something. Oh, sorry. I'm like trying to... Not if there... Yeah, there was a draft in World War II. So, so it's like, you could understand because a superpower attacked the United States and then another superpower was like, yeah, we're in league with them. Nazis and the Japanese Empire at the time. So, but then you get to Vietnam and it's like, what are we fighting for?
Exactly. If you watch a lot of footage from Vietnam, you see these stone soldiers that have no clue why they're there. You know? They're just dropping acid and shooting children.
Gregory Peck was interested in this film because he finally wanted to try his hand at comedy after being known as a dramatic actor, and landed this role when Cary Grant turned it down. Audrey Hepburn was chosen because they wanted an unknown actress.
Yeah.
Film was a success upon its release. 3 Academy Awards. We just talked about this. Best Costume Design.
For legendary Edith Head.
Indeed. Best Screenplay, given Trumbo 93. And Best Actress for Audrey Hepburn. Damn.
First role, first Oscar. I wonder if anybody else has ever done that.
We can look it up, but we won't.
We'll do it some other time.
This film is credited with birthing the romantic comedy genre, so direct your love or chagrin squarely here. I don't think that is... I think probably the concept, there is definitely romantic comedies that predate this movie.
Sure. Well, they were kind of known as the screwball comedies.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the first...
Yeah, this one doesn't really have so many of the zany screwball elements that, like, it happened one night, Philadelphia Story, Bringing Up Baby, like, those ones are a little more zany, and this one's a little more grounded. Either way.
Yeah, it's like, you look at, like, The Thin Man or something, and there's romance and there's comedy, but there's not, like, a romantic comedy, things like a meet cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they're already married when we start,
yeah.
How do they meet cute?
Yeah,
we don't know.
The romance isn't the crux of the story, it's just part of the story.
As of this recording, this film was available on physical media and digital HD purchase and perhaps rental. Rental?
Yeah, you can rent it on, like, your Amazon Primes and such.
Not streaming anywhere. Between the time we decided this movie and when we recorded this episode, it was on Netflix, and then it wasn't.
Yeah,
so.
it pops on and off on Netflix. So.
Son of a bitch.
Keep an eye out for it.
Kev, have you heard of this movie?
Heard of it. Haven't seen it, though. This will be my first time. It's definitely a hole in my, I believe, in our 2016 wrap-up episode, I said I wanted to see more of these sort of classic movies with the classic actors and actresses, and this is one that was near the top of the list for me to see.
Emily showed me this movie, I believe last year, and I was blown away. Not to spoil anything, but I was blown away by it.
Okay.
Like, I was like, wow, this feels very modern. This is very bold.
Sure.
And I get why this is a classic. This is a movie that I get why people love it. I get why...
Which is not true of all classics. There's some out there where it's just like, why is this endured? Because of this one, like, kind of iconic line, and then everything else is garbage.
Are you referencing Here to Eternity directly or indirectly right now?
But that one doesn't have any memorable lines.
Oh, yeah, unbelievable.
Sick.
Dun, 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 dun. So, yeah, I really, I do... Oh, Kev, you're killing me here.
What? Sorry.
Just
put a lead on me, Turkish.
I don't know what you're talking about. But, yeah, I really like this movie, so it'll be interesting to see what you think about it.
Sure.
Because I think it deserves its status, which is it's tough because some movies are good, but maybe don't deserve their status. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I think a lot of people feel that way about Citizen Kane. They're like, it's a great movie, but is it the best movie of all time? Because best movie, that's a forceful thing to say. You know what I mean? It's like, I love the internet, and people are like, everything is on the internet. It's like, everything is a big word to say everything. You know what's on the internet? Movie times. You know what's not on the internet? Movie times from 10 years ago.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
although those are probably at the library. If you look up those microfilm paper.
Bing, bing, bing. So that's just like, so I do want to come back to this in the second half and after you watch it and see what you think about it.
Sounds good.
William Wyler and Dalton Trumbo, both legendary figures of old Hollywood, 70 credits to their name on IMDb, more or less a piece. Trumbo wrote Spartacus, and William Wyler directed Ben-Hur. So these are not slouches.
No.
I feel like I am not familiar with their work in terms of, like, I can't name you every Donald Trumbo movie, but it's like one of these things where you might have seen more movies of theirs than you know.
True.
You know what I mean?
Although when I was looking through Dalton Trumbo's list, I was shocked at how many I didn't even really know.
He did, and spoilers for the life and the movie, he did, in his blacklisting, write a bunch of schnoz, like, low-budget movies.
Oh, okay.
They were the guys who were willing to, be like, blacklist, schmacklist, we're making movies about zombies. Yep. You know what I mean? So, you
gotta pay the bills.
Yeah. Speaking of paying the bills, Kev, are you a fan of, or were you first forced to watch romantic comedies?
I've
gone through a lull in recent times.
Yes, they have.
Early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you were just fat for choice.
And just all the top talent was going to the romantic comedies.
Mm-hmm.
You had Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Lopez, who at the time was huge. Ray Fiennes was in, like, chitsy romantic comedies. I mean, they were everywhere. Everywhere. And I was never a big fan of them. But I also never really had to watch them either, so...
So I feel like, our perennial, M is definitely, like, has a lot of influence on this podcast because she has a lot of influence on me and has been our guest more than, say, former host Matt.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So she, by hook or by crook, would get me to watch romantic comedies. Like we recently watched Love Actually, some would say the pinnacle of the romantic comedy.
The absurdly long romantic comedy.
Indeed. And there's even more of that movie that they cut out. There's a whole other subplot that they cut out.
Yep.
So, I'm not a fan of the 90s and 2000 ones, really. You Got Mails and stuff. But Emily did turn me on to the ones like the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
And I do like those a lot. Those ones are fun because people talked in a different way.
What are some other ones besides Roman Holiday?
Like Bringing Up Baby.
That's 30s, homie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're talking Bringing Up Baby and It Happened One Night, that's like 1934.
Yeah, listen, apparently the 30s was a good decade for it. What can I tell you, Kev?
His Girl Friday is probably my favorite, I would say, of what you would call but that one has a little bit of the slapstick though, or the screwball element to it. But yeah, His Girl Friday is great.
Burning the midnight oil here. Trying to do a little Google reconnaissance. All of this is going to be edited out unless I think it's funny, and then we're going to leave it in. But probably not. 7 Year Itch. That's a funny,
okay.
At 1950s, that's funny.
No,
and that's a little,
Some Like It Hot. Would you consider that a romantic comedy?
I mean, it definitely has elements of that and the screwball comedy. Obviously they're men dressing about in drag as women, but there is a meet cute. There is it's kind of actually when you have both guys, one guy is being courted by a man, and the other guy's being courted by a woman. The man storyline is the screwball comedy, and then the woman storyline is the romantic comedy. So there's just stuff that Death Set is a good one. There's just a bunch of stuff that I really liked.
All right.
And I can't. If Emily was in this house right now, I'd be like, name some for me, babe, and she would rattle them off. But Death Set is a really good one, like I just said, and like I think Sinatra is in a bunch of good ones. You know what I mean? Like,
which ones? He's in like. There's the Bob Hope ones aren't really romantic comedies.
Would you think that White Christmas is a romantic comedy?
Not really.
And then there's kind of musical romantic comedies, which is a whole other thing. So like,
it's a
On the Town is like one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Other than there's one weird scene that I can't defend, but other than that,
it's a little racist. Is that what?
I don't. It's like it really borders because it's like they're doing caveman. It's like they're in a prehistoric exhibit, so they're doing like caveman stuff. Okay. So I'm like, you could really read this either way. You could say that they're making fun of African stuff, or you could say that this is like caveman stuff.
Some bone in the nose type things.
Yeah, but not that far. But they definitely put on like a grass skirt. But you're like, you know what I mean? So, but what the fuck? We've really tangented so hard right now.
So basically what we're saying is romantic comedy, it's a big umbrella. There's a lot of different movies you can kind of put in there.
Speaking of romantic comedy movies, Roman Holiday, what's your expectation, Kev?
You say it lives up to its classic status? That's what I'm hoping for. I want to see why it's endured for so long.
I want to get something maybe new out of this movie. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what I want going into this. Maybe I'll just watch it and see what happens.
Sure.
I will say this before we get into it, and I'll leave it here. The title of this movie is kind of weak if you haven't seen it. I don't think Roman Holiday is a very evocative title.
I like that title.
I mean,
I think it's got a certain magic to it.
From Here to Eternity demands that you watch it, right? Like, that's a title.
Sure.
From Here to Eternity.
And then you get From Here to Eternity.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, and I would argue this is the opposite, right? This is Roman Holiday, and then I think just thinking about this movie makes me like From Here to Eternity less. So actually, that's what I really want to see is, does this movie stack up to Here to Eternity?
Basically, we're just proving that I'm right every time. So
that is not what this podcast is. So let's get into this. Here we go.
Here we go.
Kev. We're back.
We're back.
How and when and where did you watch it?
Physical disc.
Same.
DVD from Netflix. It was the 2003 special edition re-release.
I watched Emily's copy. We watched it together on a weeknight,
Very good.
Perhaps a Tuesday.
Is Dalton Trumbo credited in the opening credits?
Story by.
Okay, yeah, that's what mine had as well. That was, as I watched special features, that was added later.
But he wrote it, though.
He wrote it, but they said,
can't arbitration. They can't do an arbitration.
Yeah, but like, the credits back when it first came out didn't have his name on it. So
at all.
Yeah. It just had whatever the pseudonym was.
So, Kev, what'd you think?
I liked it. Dottie. Liked. I have a couple issues with it, though. But overall, this is a very enjoyable movie. I do get why it's endured for so long. And I can see how it kicked off this sort of romantic comedy genre. There's a lot more I liked than I didn't. So.
On the second viewing, really, really liked it. And for a movie written by a dude, it is, and directed by a dude. It is very much so about women. In this case, it's a princess, but it's not really it's about all women and like what we put onto women, right? There's no better example of this than the first scene, one of the first scenes, which is she is the princess. She is meeting with a bunch of foreign diplomats, and there's a scene, no music. The only dialogue is someone saying, Mr. and Mrs. Saboba from blah, 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 blah. Mr. and Mrs. Deya from
And yeah, it's just kind of this hollow sort of ringing sound.
Right.
It's not joyous. It's sort of
and this is true of any age of film, but compared to our modern age, we're used to superhero movies where the stakes of the movie is literally, if we fail, the fucking world will end.
Everyone wants to end the world these days.
7 billion people will die unless we can stop Thanos.
Yep.
Right? This movie, she has to be respectful while meeting with this boring, and we know how boring it is, and she loses a fucking shoe,
Well,
And
she takes it out because her foot hurts,
Oh yeah, no, she itches
Or
the back of her
yeah.
leg, and she can't find her
and
shoe.
then she can't find her shoe.
And then we through the use of fades and no music, just the fades and the drolling voice, we realize that she has now probably stood on one foot in a heel
Yep.
for hours.
Yep.
And if she can't get that shoe back, she's gonna be real embarrassed. And you see that in her world. If you and me right now, if you lost a shoe right now, we would pause the podcast, you would put it back on, you'd be like, oh, it's pitching my foot weird,
Yep.
and be like, hey man, no problem. But she lives a life where that is not an option. And through no dialogue and no music, they communicate this.
And I think if you had done like a screwball comedy kind of thing, that would have been way more of a set piece and probably would have had the music in it
And some
a little
falling
more
down.
zany.
Right.
But yeah, it's such a great little scene of, it's, Audrey Hepburn was like 23 or 24 when they made this, so we can assume she's a 23 or 24-year-old woman.
Sure.
And yeah, it's like her foot hurts. She wants to scratch her, or her leg itches, and she just wants to get her shoe on. But yeah, it's just great little filmmaking of, like you said, showing that she's been there for hours, just in agony.
Right.
And this life sucks.
It's serious and frivolous,
Yep.
but it's both, right? It's so dumb. You can't put your shoe back on. You can't just bend over and pause this. But we know just from this, you can't.
Can't do it.
Can't do
That
it.
could be a sign of disrespect. You showed the Japanese prime minister the top of your head. That's
Nah.
1,000 years of bad luck.
Right.
That kind of thing.
And I just really like it. Just this movie to me shows you why the film moving image medium is so awesome, because it can be whatever you want, right? You can make a great movie about how if we don't do this thing, the world will end, and you can make a great movie about life and stake death, fucking Scream, where a killer's on the loose, and you can make a movie about a girl just trying to explore the world, and they're all part of the same medium, and that is you can't say the same thing for other mediums of stuff. You can't say the same thing for skateboarding. Skateboarding can be serious, it can be funny, but you know what I'm saying? It's just interesting. I don't know. I just think it's so interesting how diverse this medium really is.
Yes. That's why we can devote 70 plus episodes to it.
And I will say, just to piggyback on what you're talking about, how the fact that they hold back is what makes this a romantic comedy, not a screwball comedy. This is, I would argue, just such a great romantic comedy. And Hugh Grant, you're just missed. All right, we don't need you. All right, we got this.
Exactly. So
you want to let's get into
let's
this.
get into this. So Audrey Hepburn is fantastic through this whole movie.
Agreed.
Her accent kind of wavers a little bit in some scenes. Some scenes she sounds British. Some scenes she's kind of got a faux Russian thing going on. Some scenes she sounds American. Doesn't matter. That woman is just charm incarnate.
And funny.
And funny. She's very charming. She's very funny.
And she's so tiny.
She's so small. Like,
Which has nothing to do with anything, but just like
Yeah.
in the scene where she gets flipped off the couch onto off the bed onto the couch, it's like, man, this girl is tiny.
Yes. Gregory Peck is a great actor. I think he's a little out of his league in this movie, though. He can't quite hit the comedy set pieces that, like, Cary Grant could have done in his sleep, And the one that really sticks out to me is when he's trying to lie to his boss about scoring the interview.
I like that scene.
He just doesn't have the juice to get through it.
Although that's
He does. He can't really do awkward, he's not convincing in the slightest. Like, not in the slightest, but I don't know. All I can picture is like Cary Grant just owning that scene, and Gregory Peck just doesn't quite seem to have the It'd be like if Liam Neeson tried to do it, Maybe Liam Neeson's funny. In fact, he is funny, but Gregory Peck is so good in dramas. To Kill a Mockingbird, 12 O'Clock High, so many great ones, but he just doesn't quite have the timing and to get through those scenes. And I kind of felt that through any of his sort of comedy scenes.
On the second viewing, I really enjoyed that scene. I don't remember how I felt about it the first time.
Now, I will say, in the scenes where he's, like, basically falling in love with her, especially at the end, he's great.
Yes.
Really good. That ending is almost, there's almost no dialogue in that, or at least all of what's really being said is so well put in between the lines
Yeah.
of what you know, they have to be
there's-
formal, but
Very little. There's like story dialogue, but no. Because like here, members of the press, take a picture,
Yep.
and then they through the action, he shows her that the lighter was a camera. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like that's what we're communicating, but no one's saying like, hey, by the way, my lighter was a camera. No one's saying that. We're showing it.
exactly, and he really nails those scenes. Mm-hmm. But I just don't quite think he's got the comedic chops to pull off the real funny stuff.
So let's just jump to that ending really quick.
Yes.
That ending is like master craftsman, master artist saying, I don't give a fuck.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't care what you want. Here's what we're going to talk about, right?
So
And that
this is the first romantic comedy, and they have this like tragic ending.
So I will-
tragic's a strong word.
tragic is a strong word, but it feels tragic.
It feels tragic.
So when the first time, and I'm going to throw Emily a little bit on the bus here. The first time we started watching this, so they're talking, everyone starts, he's talking to her, like, they give her the photos, and Gregory Peck's talking to her, and Emily starts like kind of like getting glassy eyed. I'm like, what are you doing? And then the movie, and she starts crying a little bit, and I'm like, they're gonna like meet up outside in a minute. In my mind, I'm thinking this.
Yeah.
And then he starts walking away. Everyone leaves. She leaves. He leaves. He starts walking away, and the music's not picking up. And I'm like, okay, but like he's gonna open the door, and then you're gonna get the Russian
she's
music.
gonna run around that corner.
Right. I'm like, I'm just waiting for her around the corner.
Gregory! Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, the end. And then, nope, just fade out, the end. And I was like, what? So did you see that come in?
I wanted her to run around that corner, and I thought she was gonna come. But yeah, I really didn't think they had the stones to end it that way. But
Yeah.
by God, they did.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And it's absolutely the right decision.
So the thing is that, like, I guess on paper, that is not a happy ending, right? Because happy ending is when they get each other in the end,
Yeah.
right? Which is always not the case, because, like, you watch some romantic comedy, like, these people are poison, they should not be with each other,
This is the most toxic relationship.
Yeah,
i.e., How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Exactly. Meg Ryan and what's his face in You Got Mail. It's like
Tom Hanks.
these are two garbage people who don't deserve anyone, much less each other. So it is a happy ending in the sense that they both learn. He learns that life is more than the job, right? That the job is people. This is not explicitly said. It's just implied heavily for the fact that he is so eager to get a story out of her and get a bunch of money off the story. $5,000 in $1950, which I don't know what the math would be. Is that like $1 billion? I don't know.
I think somewhere on IMDb they said that was equivalent of like $44,000 in today's money.
Sure.
So
And then
a huge chunk of change.
yeah, for real. And then what the movie really sells is that she finds out about the world. She finds out about her identity, herself. She finds her inner strength. You know what I mean? Because at the beginning of the movie,
And she gets to be a girl for the first time.
right,
Feels like.
a young woman, right? Where like, I'm just gonna spend the day walking around, buying a gelato, hanging out, looking at stuff, getting a haircut. It's so you can't say it's a sad ending when in the beginning she's getting grilled by this lady and being forced to drink milk and eat crackers before she goes to bed, and then in the end she's like, take that shit away from me, I don't want that.
Yep.
It's like, oh good, you have power. You know what I
She
mean?
mentions like when she's kind of in her stupor when he first finds her. She's like, I've never even been like alone in a room with a man before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get her life is just this little hermetically sealed thing.
And as such, it would be a bit cornball in an era where cornball was fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It'd be cornball if the first guy that she met, she just fell in love with, and they were together forever, right? It doesn't really. I'm not saying that's not real or is real. It's a movie. It's all fake. It doesn't feel real if that happens. So, and it kind of undercuts the discovery, right? Like, she's discovering herself. She's discovering the world. She's hanging out with two dudes all day. You know what I mean? Riding fucking motorcycles and looking at stuff.
Playing in the fountain. Just doing all kinds of shit.
So, I think the ending is it's the right ending.
I was kind of riding mid-level to mid-high. That ending really put it over the top. Where I'm like, okay, I get why this movie's endured.
And it makes
so
it feel like an artistic statement. It's like, we're not going to give you... It kind of reminds me of La La Land, right? Where it's like, we're not giving you everything that you want, but we're giving you enough that you have something to really chew on.
Exactly. And And that weaves in, just like La La Land, weaves into the story of the piece as well. That's like the theme of what the characters are going through. It's, they got kind of this one perfect thing, but it was just a whisper and it was gone, you know? And it may never happen.
But it's a whisper, but had all of what was learned matters the most.
Exactly.
So
they got what they were looking for, but it still hurts. But they didn't get what they thought they needed. But they kind of did get what they needed, but not really. But they kind of did, and it's those endings are really hard to pull off. So,
and I cannot stress how well written this is. Where the photographer comes to the studio, the guy's studio apartment, and he's like, "Oh my god, like." Look, I got these photos. They're so great. And he's like, don't show. He keeps tripping him and pushing him, like, don't show the editor. And then looking at him, and they're coming up with all of the captions. Crown. The crown like hits back or whatever the fuck. And then he gets sad, and then the guy's like, yeah, he gets sad too. And they realize that they can't publish these.
Yeah.
And it's just like that is communicated with no one saying, we can't publish these. Yep. And it's like, a movie today wouldn't have the balls to omit that line.
Exactly. And that's a great little device. Because when you're in the moment of their little adventure, you're kind of not thinking about it. But then you sort of realize all the great memorable moments they had.
Yeah.
And they do it in a way that's not like a cross-cutting flashback or whatever. Yeah, it's just like looking at these pictures. Well, and you kind of have the nostalgia for those moments, too.
And the photos are framed very well where it looks like they're taken from the place that he was standing.
Yeah.
And they're all, artistic shots. And what a perfect tool to help tell this story, right? Where it's like, we're exactly what you just said. We're looking back on these great moments from the lens of the camera that was capturing those great moments in those moments, literally.
Yep.
Before we get on, I gotta say, I found this movie to be very funny in two ways. One, the great wordplay. So in the beginning, when they're like, you will go to the automobile factory and you'll be sent with a small car. Thank you, which you will not accept. No, thank you. And then there's like the great physical comedy. So like she's like all looped out on fucking sleeping pills, and he's leading her to his apartment. And he starts going upstairs, and she just keeps walking, and then he's walking up, and her hand's going up.
Yep.
And he has to turn her around and walk her back.
Yep.
And it's just like, that is such a funny moment. And also there's a great physical comedy moment. So, so the saying in Hollywood is like, male nudity is funny, female nudity is sexy, which is like beyond stupid. But there's such a great moment in this movie, and this movie's from the fucking 50s, where she's like, you may be seated, and then because she's trying to get into pajamas, and she drops like her top skirt, and then she's wearing like an underskirt.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're taking advantage of her here, but just the idea that like this is the equivalent of like her pants falling down.
Yep.
And that moment is fucking funny.
It's good.
And it's a woman. So I don't know. I feel like you could learn a lot from. People are like, there's nothing to learn from old movies, and when dumb people say that, watch this fucking movie. You can learn a lot from this movie.
There's plenty of great craft going on in it. So that being said, there are a couple things.
Are these nitpicks or are these real problems?
These are a little more nitpicks. I don't know if this is an issue with the DVD or with the transfer, but there are some weird edits and some weird audio dropouts and cutouts that happen.
I think I didn't have the chance to watch it. I know on the DVD special features, because we looked for a blooper reel and didn't find it. God damn it.
Damn you.
There was a one about restoring it, and historically movies from this era, some of them were not taken care of at all.
For sure.
So I think in the fight scene, there's when she hits the guy with the fucking
with the guitar,
there's definitely a jump cut right there.
Yeah.
And it's like
there's a scene where when he puts her in bed, and then I think there's a police siren or something in the background, and then there's like an edit that kind of pushes in a little bit to him and then pushes back out to the master shot,
as if they zoomed in and out and they kind of cut the zooms.
Exactly, and that's very jarring. There was one audio cue that I can't remember where it was at right now, but it's like the audio just like hard drops out. So I don't know if it's just.
I think that without doing research, my assumption with those things is that it's because the print was in a bad shape.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Because
Dan, come on, restore this movie.
Well,
give it, but maybe
that's the scary thing, right? Is like maybe they don't have it.
Yep. It's weird to think nobody back then thought about preservation. Like, there's so many silent movies that are gone.
Well, it's interesting because until the advent of TV, unless your movie was a classic, there's nothing you can really do with it again, right?
Sure.
And it is interesting that they didn't think like, well, maybe and maybe people didn't think this way at the time or didn't understand it because pop culture was just dawning. Maybe no one thought like, hey, when people get older, they're going to want to revisit these. And, but then again, movie theaters were movie palaces. It was like a 1 or 2 screen theater. It wasn't like it's a multiplex and we can re-release it in the small theater. You know what I mean?
That whole distribution model wasn't even the
right.
thing.
I mean, famously, there's a story that I believe at Fox and at Paramount, they were like, they got rid of a bunch of masters right before VHS came out, and then they were like, fuck. So they were like, they had to go like root through the garbage. They sold them to private collectors. They had to get them, ask people like, does anyone have a print of this? And people had, enthusiasts had been collecting them for a long time.
Yeah.
Apparently, I mean, like, there's a John Wayne movie, Stagecoach, where the negative was tossed and he had a print and they had to make a new negative off of his print.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think it's just a
you hear
different
stories
time.
like that, all of Jack Parr's Tonight shows are gone.
Yeah, they're on
Erased
videotape
tapes.
and they erased tapes.
All of Monty Python's Flying Circus was almost written over. Like, BBC was just like, we're just going to use these tapes again, but then Eric Idle bought them all. So that's why we still have Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so that was some technical issues that
we'll take
perhaps are squarely on the shoulders of Paramount. Paramount, you're on the board. You made the list.
You're on the clock, Paramount. And yeah, again, I just don't buy Gregory Peck as a comedy actor. Just don't. There's the scenes where he's like spilling stuff on his buddy as a kind of like distraction.
I love those scenes. I think
he doesn't have the rhythm.
The friend sells them though.
The friend is really good.
Hey pal, what's the deal? Yeah, he's just like,
he's great.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Gregory Peck just didn't do much for me in those scenes.
Okay.
And again, he brings it all back because he's great in the romance and dramatic scenes. But he's not pulling his lead the same way Audrey Hepburn is, who is so effortless in her charm.
So we've talked about the action in this movie, and when I say action, I don't necessarily mean fight scenes. Although this movie has a really great fight scene,
Got a good fight scene,
and I intrinsically will love any movie with a chair shot. And this movie not only has a chair shot, it also has a guitar shot. And not only does it have a guitar shot, the guy misses the photo, and then he says, "Hit him again, Smitty."
Yep.
And then she does it again, and I was like, "Yes!" And even the action of her just walking around Rome, it's like watching her get a haircut and buy gelato. You're just like, what's gonna happen next? She's gonna look at flowers, and it's like I took a moment where I stepped back. I'm like, I'm enjoying watching a woman talk to a guy in another language about the price of flowers.
Yep.
And I'm like, that says a lot.
Does they really?
Because you know what I like, Kev? I like robots. You know what I don't necessarily like? Watching people buy flowers. Go ahead.
Something I noted, and I think was very deliberate. Rome really feels like a magical place in all the scenes where she's in it.
Yes. One shot in this movie feels like this is a Bobo location shot.
Yeah, I mean, one, because it was actually in Rome.
Right.
And if I understand my research correctly, this kind of inspired people to actually
out there,
go on location, not just stay in Burbank. Like let's go to Paris and shoot a movie in Paris. But not in a cloying way. It's not like this overwhelmingly old Hollywood magical Rome. You really just feel the life of that city, and it's seeing it through her eyes. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
they pull it off.
Right.
So, I really wish this movie was in color.
I
really do.
I'm not bothered by the fact it's in black and white. I think
I'm not. But man, the whole time I was like, this could be so vibrant and colorful, and really be something strong.
I'm with you. It's not, and we'll never know what it's like.
We'll never know
unless there's a colorized version of this movie that exists,
which I don't want to watch. And master it in color. But yeah, there are just moments where I'm like, this works. This is just fine in black and white. But man, this could have been a truly vibrant color film.
Yeah.
It's true.
Not meant to be, I suppose.
I guess, yeah. Not
know.
meant to be.
What, do you have any nitpicks? Just tiny things you didn't like.
She's a litter bug! She litters so much.
When did she litter?
She throws the ice cream cone when she's done with it. She flicks a cigarette, her straw wrapper. She's a litter bug.
You know, it's
gross.
It's definitely. Listen, I will never defend littering. 'Cause littering is wrong.
Littering's gross.
I will say this was made in a time when people were just like whatever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it was made in a time where and also we live in a time now where you see people throw cigarettes on the ground all the time, and it's like, what is wrong with you?
But smokers are jokers.
Smokers are jokers. Also,
yeah.
that's my nitpick. Smoking, totally stupid.
Stupid.
This is my first cigarette.
Don't do
It
it.
should be your last.
Don't do it.
Also, stud poker sucks. That's not a fun game.
It's not a fun game.
That's like degenerate gambling.
I do like the reveal in that scene when you think it's this big high stakes game. They're like, "Oh, I'm putting 4,000 in," and then he loses, and he's like, 4,000. This is like $10.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you
yeah.
realize, oh, they're playing with Roman money, and
Yeah, it's like lira or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
so-
not worth anything.
that was a good little gag.
It is. But I'm just saying,
Yeah,
Kev,
stud poker, terrible game.
I remember learning how to play poker as a kid, and it's like, give me two. It's like you're always chasing stuff that you're never gonna get.
Yeah.
And it's like then you discover Texas Hold'em, and you're like, this is fun. You know what I mean?
Because that has some real stakes and some real psychology behind it in Hold'em, because you're seeing the table and you know what you have, but you also in the back of your mind you gotta be like, is he bluffing? Well, I have a jack. There's a jack there. Maybe he's got one, but you really have to. That game has a lot more of the drama that I like.
Can I just real quick, just give a quick story?
Yes.
So
Of course.
We're
It's
playing
a conversational
in college.
podcast.
I was playing poker with my friends. Matt was there. Matt of the show previously. Love you, Matt. And he would always he was an unpredictable player because he would bet. He was an unpredictable player, but then we figured out that he would just bet.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so I remember we're all going where everyone had something, right? And you could tell. Except with Matt, we're like, what do you have? So everyone's putting in things. People were like, I'm not even gonna look at my cards. I'm gonna, people were like, I don't even need it to turn over. Like, I want to put down whatever. People were just betting crazy. This guy it was one of those fucking like Maverick.
Yeah.
This guy has a straight. This guy has a flush. This guy has a full house. And Matt just turns it over. Yeah, I got Jack High. Like, you didn't have shit? Why'd you bet all that? Like, did you think that we had something?
Wild card, man. He wants to be wild.
So, like, listen, everyone had, again, like 2 pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. Matt, Jack High. That's all I had. I thought my Jack would beat your 3.
Betting's just so much fun.
Apparently. Oh, another nitpick I had was he shows up at the office and he takes a sip of a girl's coffee and then he takes like half of her like pastry.
Uh-huh.
No person in the history of humanity would allow such. Get your own fucking cup of coffee and get your own pastry.
Get out of here. Plus, you're like a schlub guy that nobody really likes. So,
Yeah.
get out of here, dude. Yeah, it's Rome. Get your own fucking pastry.
Also, doing anything other than showering after a haircut? No, sir. No,
What?
sir.
I'm all right with it.
No way, man. I don't know. I mean,
I
I
use
get
the brush the hair.
I do get the sides of my head shaved, so I don't know if with my 4 foot tall mohawk that I have.
Sure.
Wink. I don't know. Maybe because I'm getting down to the fuzz. You know what I mean?
Oh,
you get the little like
Yeah, there are the
grit.
cleaner-ons,
You get
but
the grit. And I'm not.
True.
I'm not paying. I'm not going to a classy enough place for them to clean it up. I guess.
You don't get like a shampoo when you get your haircut.
Before or after?
Like
And the answer is neither.
the place I go. Kind of midway through, we do the shampoo,
What?
and then
Where do you go?
Ziggy's in Culver City.
Well, let's talk about
Washington.
Let's talk about this afterwards. What's the price on that?
After tip 40,
That's a steep. That's steep.
but
But you're getting
it's a good haircut.
you're getting a good. People at home can't see Kev. This haircut sharp. And also, they are giving you a wash, so
They're giving you the wash. Sometimes you get a beer. It's a good place.
I don't want the beer.
Free
But
beer.
I don't want the beer.
They do other stuff.
Is it like only men?
No. They do women too.
Alright,
So
Also, we are just tangenting like crazy here.
it's an inspiring movie.
Did the mix of stock footage and regular footage at the beginning work for you? You were very sensitive to this.
This one didn't stand out as much.
I think they
And
blended it very well.
They blend it, and it when you kick off with kind of a newsreel vibe already, I can buy stock footage. It's when
you insert it in the middle as if it's footage.
Yeah, when you plop it in, trying to say like someone points and goes, "Ah, look,
A shark!"
Then,
And you see like
and then
Discovery Channel footage of a shark.
Yeah, that's when it's really like, get out of here.
Yeah, the frame cropped to get the D logo out.
Yeah,
not good.
Yeah, no, that was big issue in From Here to Eternity. Here, it was fine. Yep. It's a newsreel. You're already kind of set the tone for that.
Also, speaking of Here to Eternity, I did like that movie more than you, but after watching this movie makes Here to Eternity look like bullshit.
Yeah,
it really does.
You actually like want to watch this one again.
I would, yeah.
I would happily watch Roman Holiday again.
But Here to Eternity is a melodrama, and this is a romantic comedy.
Sure.
But it shows you why a romantic comedy can be better than a melodrama.
Yes. But also achieved a higher emotional effect too.
Indeed,
it's not just for yucks. Like this, that ending is genuinely sad, but genuinely moving because they're both different people now.
And also the way they build their romance, where it's really well done. Where they're hanging out, they're discovering things together. She's making him laugh, right? They do the little bit in the the hand inside of the thing. He takes her to the wall of wishes, and he sees that she really wishes that she could be free. And then, there's that great scene right before they're done hanging out for the day at night, where she's like, "Oh, I know how to cook, and I know how to clean, and I know how to do all these things, but I never get a chance to do any of it." And he's like, "Oh, I should move to an apartment with a kitchen then." And they look at each other, and then they both look at each other and smile because it's a funny joke, and then they both get sad knowing it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you get why they like each other. You know what I mean? It's like they really do. I know you didn't think that he was funny enough, but they do have chemistry.
They have chemistry. I'll definitely give him that much. I'm just saying the comedy mechanics he maybe doesn't quite get, but they are a good screen couple.
Yes. I will just say, as for the little cool things, I just want to point out that when he calls his photographer friend and he's doing like a cheesecake photo shoot where the lady's like fishing. That is hilarious.
Yep.
And there's just so many.
In that shot, in one or two shots, you learn exactly who this guy is.
Yes.
He's not like, "I'm gonna call my photographer friend. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Hello, photographer friend." It's he's this like quirky kind of freelance hippie photographer.
Right, who is a bit of a womanizer, but in a way where it's nothing personal.
Not in a leering way like the barber was. Man.
I also love how the barber jumped into that fight.
Yeah.
He's like, "Whoa, a fight!" And then I also love how nothing is translated in the movie. You have to experience it the way the characters are experiencing it, and how they would experience it. Like, how much Italian do you know? Do you know what this guy is saying? Me, three bambinos. You know bambino? It's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, that's, again, adding to a little bit of the magic of you're really in a world you don't know, but you're completely enchanted by. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm always an advocate for, like, the no subtitles unless the character specifically knows what they're saying,
Yeah.
That's that kind of thing.
And I will say,
Martin Scorsese does that in silence, just so you know. Japanese, not a lot of Japanese translated in that.
And kind of on this note, there's a scene after they get pulled over by the cops for driving like crazy, where they're over music explaining to the cops what they did, and they play like the music is like all over the place in a way that the music never has been in this movie before, and then it kind of gets into this wedding vibe. Yeah. And afterwards, all the guy says, "Telling them that you're heading to your wedding." Classic. And it's like, it's so interesting because they telegraph that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's so good. So Kev, what do you think about this title?
I think it's a perfect title. Roman Holiday. It glides out of your mouth.
After you see it, it really does work. Before you see it, I don't know if it's putting butts in the seats, but it is a perfect title for this movie, having seen it.
Yeah. Now, I think it's just a perfect title regardless. I think it looks good on a poster. It's easy to say. It has just enough of that magic to go, "Oh, what's this about?" And then couple it with the image of them on the scooter. It's great.
It's so good. And then when she's in the back of the truck, and there's so many charming moments. She's in the back of the truck, and the girl on the scooter just waves to her.
Yep.
So good. Kev, big picture. Do you like this movie? Does it work?
As we've kind of sat here and talked about it, I think I do appreciate it a lot more. And I do want to watch it again. So I will say, just through this conversation, I'm bumping it up to it was like a 7.5 in my book. I'm bumping it up to like an 8.5.
I love this movie. I think it plays. I'm not going to say it's perfect, I think it plays perfectly.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I would love to see this movie with an audience.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love to listen to smart people talk about this movie.
Yep.
I think it's a really good movie, and I think it really deserves its place in the pantheon of greatness.
Sure. I think.
Is it the greatest movie of all time? No.
No.
But is it really good?
Because that's the thing. We've established that.
Yeah.
The greatest movie of all time is the thing.
But it's up there. It's really, really good.
Like I said, my only thing is I just think you get like a Cary Grant or a Tony Curtis in there instead of Gregory Peck, and you really have a great comedic duo. So that's me.
Do you have a remake or sequel idea for this movie?
Don't even touch it. It's such a perfect little snow globe.
I don't think that anyone should touch this movie specifically. I do think someone should take the loose roots of what the premise of this movie is and make a modern version. So don't call it Roman Holiday. Don't set it in Rome. But the idea of someone who is sheltered, going somewhere on their own, and having a exploratory adventure, I think would lend itself to the times that we live in now, right? So if you have a girl who maybe, went to boarding school, whatever, and she just graduated and she's rich and she's finally an adult, and she just gets in her car and drives to Santa Cruz, California, and meets some fucking surfers and hangs out with them for a couple of days. You know what I mean? And that's the whole movie. Sure. And it's kind of a smaller, we're gonna have fun and explore life kind of movie.
Interesting. I just recently watched American Honey.
Which is not a comedy, though.
No, very much not a comedy. But it's a similar idea of somebody getting swept away into a world they've never known. Mm-hmm. So, but it takes place over like the flyover states in Kansas,
and they're like hustlers, right?
They're magazine subscription sales
/ sleeves, right?
Yeah.
And it's for some reason someone's in a Confederate bikini.
Yep.
What? How did that scene come up?
You just gotta watch.
They don't seem to like close to a beach. It doesn't seem like it's bikini appropriate time.
That's just what she's wearing. So, but I mean that's
fair enough.
Again, that is far from a romantic comedy, far from a charming little movie, but it is sort of the same idea of somebody just leaving their environment and seeing something new. Mm-hmm. So,
I would like to see that handled tonally similar to this.
Okay.
Right? Because I don't want like a Euro trip or a road trip movie where it's like
raunchy. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a maniacal legend there, sure. But I don't want it to be raunchy. I want it to just be like it's kind of sweet. It's going to be very sweet in a way that feels good. You know what I mean? It's
not saccharine.
Right.
You don't feel like you're going to get a cavity
right.
if you watch it, like some of these movies from the 50s where it's just, the strings swell and they get their big line and they kiss and then it's, the end. It's just like my tooth
This
hurts.
movie, appropriately so, is a single scoop of gelato, not in a waffle cone, but just in the cup.
Yep.
Right? And it's not like some crazy flavor like Snickers or some shit. Just like, a little vanilla bean.
Yeah. I was gonna say strawberry.
Strawberry. It could be strawberry.
Something refreshing.
But exactly. Refreshing, just sweet enough.
Yep.
No chunks, just blended smooth.
And when you finish it, you go.
Yeah, you're like, I could eat 3 more scoops of this, but I'm not gonna.
Not gonna do it.
So
that's great. Great analogy. This movie is just a nice little gelato.
Yeah, man. Perfect. You have a little spoon. Maybe you get the little spoon and you're like, I need a bigger spoon than this. And then you're eating it and you're like, no, this is perfect. Just want a little bite each time.
Yep.
Kev, what manly thing will you do now that we're done with this episode?
I might go fishing. Fishing's fun. Have you ever gone fishing?
Like when I was a little kid, but it was that thing where it's like your uncle takes you fishing and it's like, he's like, I don't want to explain to you how this works. And it's like, all right, well, fuck you then, I guess.
You do have to figure out casting. But, yeah.
I don't understand.
Fishing, get a fish, got my own fish. I have cleaned and gutted my own fish before.
I don't get casting. It's like the thing goes in the water, right? How is it so complicated?
Well, you gotta hold the hammer down and then let it fly, but then you gotta let the hammer go while it's going so that it actually like goes out past your boat.
Listen, boat. We're not even on a dock here, huh?
Yeah, we're taking a boat out. No way. I'm going boat fishing.
I'm gonna read a book.
All right, a manly book.
No, what's a manly book?
Like
Anna Karenina. There you go.
Heart of Darkness.
Nope. Something Jane Austen wrote.
All right.
Teaser. That's it for us. This episode written by Kev, music by Jeff Russell. I am Mr. Jibber Jabber. That's Kev. Hop on your scooter, take a ride. Maybe we'll bum you a cigarette.